And now you are live.
Okay, we are back at House Education on February 26, 2025. We're going to have a bill introduction, H-179, introduced by our own Representative McCann of Montpelier. Let's turn it right over to you all at the front of the table.
All right, Kate McCann, Representative Kate McCann from Montpelier. Good morning, esteemed colleagues of House Education and those listening in. I'm here this morning to introduce a bill that will strengthen the governance of our education system by transitioning from an agency of education to a Department of Education, one that ensures accountability to the people and prioritizes educational excellence over political influence. For too long, the structure of our education system has been shaped by an agency directly accountable to the government, rather than to the experts and stakeholders who understand education best. This bill seeks to realign that governance structure by making the Commissioner of Education answerable to the State Board of Education rather than the Governor's office. Education should be driven by long-term vision, research-based policies, and the needs of students, parents, and educators, not by the shifting priorities of political administrations. Under the current structure, decisions about our schools are often influenced by political cycles rather than by what is best for our children. This has led to inconsistent leadership, policy uncertainty, and a lack of continuity and long-term educational planning. The role of the Commissioner, who should be a steward of educational integrity, has been constrained by gubernatorial influence, rather than being guided by the expertise of the State Board of Education. This bill proposes a simple but powerful change, transitioning the Agency of Education into a Department of Education with a Commissioner who is selected and overseen by the State Board of Education. This will ensure stability and expertise. A Commissioner answering to the State Board will be chosen based on experience and qualifications rather than political argument. Strengthen accountability. The State Board of Education, made up of education experts and community representatives, will have the authority to oversee rulemaking and policy implementation without interference from political leadership, and prioritizes long-term educational success. By removing educational governance from the executive branch's direct control, we allow for a sustained focus on student outcomes, teacher support, and curriculum advancements without abrupt political shifts. Other states have adopted similar models with success. States that have empowered independent education boards to oversee commissioners have seen increased policy stability, improved student outcomes, and greater trust in education governance. Furthermore, educational experts overwhelmingly agree that minimizing political interference leads to more effective and student-centered decision-making. This is not about politics. It's about the future of our children. It's about ensuring the decisions on curriculum, school funding, and teacher support are made by those who are most qualified, not by political administrations. I urge my colleagues to stand with me in strengthening our education system by supporting this critical reform. Let's put education where it belongs, in the hands of those who dedicate their lives to its success. Early in the session, we heard from the Vermont Superintendents Association that a key legislative priority is to ensure proper checks and balances, such that one branch of government does not have total authority over appointments. We also heard in the legislative priorities from the Vermont Principals Association suggesting Vermont move from an agency to a Department of Education, stating that the current construct makes the AOE simply an agency completely under the direction of the governor and creates more opportunities for partisanship and politics. That same testimony provided rationale for changing the composition of the state board to better represent Vermont students, 96% of whom attend public school. Just last week, we heard Dr. Wendy Baker share her belief that this recommended shift from an AOE to a Department of Ed is the most important action the legislature can take to put the state back on track toward improved students' achievement.
Folks, there's more seats over here and over on this side too.
Return educational leadership at the state level to ensure an apolitical, sustained focus on student outcomes and school and district viability. Recently, we received an update from Megan Roy, the Commission on the Future of Public Education in Vermont. The Commission was not involved in the development of the administration's proposal. Members pointed out that the administration developed and communicated this plan outside the legislatively created commission that was created to do just that. develop recommendations for changes to Vermont's education system. Slides describing the administration's plan were emailed to the group only after they had been presented to the legislature. Commission members maintain that they should have been involved in the development from the beginning, providing the kind of deep engagement the legislature intended when it convened the commission. This is precisely why the time is now to address concerns about transparency and effectiveness that have eroded public confidence in the agency of education. Transitioning back to a department aligns with historical norms and best practices for state education governance. Thank you for the opportunity to pitch this bill, and I ask for your support in moving it forward.
Thank you very much. Would you mind talking a little bit about the section of the bill that reconfigures the actual Board of Education?
Sure. So right now, board members are all appointed by the governor, and this would allow stakeholders to nominate someone forward. So the Principals Association would get somebody, and the superintendents and the school boards and all the stakeholders would be putting forward someone they trust. Again, putting the emphasis on making sure that those who are making the rules are from the field.
Any questions for Representative McCann on sort of the policy motivation before we dive into the details? Yeah, Representative Tu.
So these board members would be appointed by stakeholders in the field, you said?
Different stakeholders in the field would have the opportunity to put forth a name for the board.
So who would they be accountable to as if they make a decision? I'm just trying to figure out who they would be.
The school board would be accountable to
So the school board would be accountable for those
the
appointments.
state.
So they would have to answer to the voters.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, we'll do a high-level walkthrough here. And we'll turn it over to the Legislative Council.
Beth St. James, Office of Legislative Counsel. Do you want me to share my screen?
No, it's okay.
Okay. So we're gonna walk through H 179 as introduced. You mentioned high level. How high do you want me to get?
We don't necessarily need to go into the nitty-gritty.
Would you like to go over the findings and intent or skip right to the section?
I think Representative McCann did a nice job of summarizing the intent.
So what the first few sections do is essentially transforms the agency of education with a cabinet member secretary who appoints to the governor back to a department of education with a commissioner of education that reports to the State Board of Education as it existed prior to the passage of Act 98 in 2012.
Excellent summary.
Great. Is that high level enough for that section? Okay, great. Moving on to page. So the State Board section starts on page 10, section 10. The reader assistance heading begins on line 11.
So all the language leading up to that is really reverting back to language that existed back pre-12.
Correct. Correct. And I think you've heard testimony here and there this session that perhaps there was more cleanup needed after Act 98 in 2012 for the allocation of duties and responsibilities than actually happened. So I'm very intentional in saying that this draft would take everything back to pre-Act 98 of 2012. It's possible that the landscape and your policy goals today would require different changes to achieve the same concept. And also, you'll notice this bill is only 14 pages.
Right.
There's a special piece in there for my homework this summer to come back with all of the conforming amendments that would need to be made to make this actually happen. Okay, so composition of the State Board of Education. So section 161 and Title 16 is the current State Board of Education membership and appointment process. This bill would take the state board membership from 10 to 11. It keeps the 2 student members as appointed by the governor with the advice and consent of the Senate. It adds 1 non-student member to bring us up to that 10, or bring us up from 10 to 11. And then right now, all State Board of Education members are appointed by the governor. This bill proposes to keep the students as appointed by the governor, and then, as Rep. McCann stated, various stakeholders would be responsible for appointing specific seats to the State Board of Education. Right now, the law requires members to be have a demonstrated commitment to ensuring quality education for Vermont students and to represent the state's geographic, gender, racial, and ethnic diversity. That language remains the same in this draft, but there's no more specificity to the background or expertise of state board members. And this draft calls out specific expertise and background depending on who the appointing authority is. For example, on page 11, line 6, 1 member shall be a public school central office administrator appointed by the Superintendent's Association. 1 member shall be a public school administrator appointed by the Principals Association. 1 member shall be a public school board member appointed by the School Boards Association. 1 member shall be a public school teacher appointed by the Vermont NEA. 1 member shall be an independent school administrator or teacher appointed by the Vermont Independent Schools Association. And 3 members would be at-large appointments, 1 by the governor, 1 by the speaker, and 1 by the Senate Committee on Committees. This bill still requires advice and consent of the Senate for all appointments.
How is that done today?
It is not a part of your business that I am familiar with.
It's not our.
I think that is, there are large numbers of appointees on various boards and commissions, along with executive branch employees, that require advice and consent of the Senate, and there is a process in the Senate for all of that.
Representative Law, and then after that, we on this side.
Just quickly, I understand how the appointments are made currently. Prior to Act 98, how were appointments made
I
to the
believe,
State Board of Education?
to my knowledge, they have always been gubernatorial appointees with the advice. and
I
consent of
understand
the
that.
Senate.
And mine was just doing the math. Is it 11 now because of the commissioner being the 11th person? Because I was trying to add up and see where the 11 were. Is that the
So-
new one?
So right now, the law does not specify all of these different seats.
Right.
So it's just you can see
1, 2,
online.
3, 4,
Line.
5, 6, 7, 8. 2 students is 10.
So you can, it's an extra
Yeah.
school board member.
Then extra.
I'm sorry, it's an extra board member.
Cool.
It's not it's not the secretary, and it's not the 2 student members. So there's an
Okay.
extra non-student, non-secretary member.
4,
Mhm.
5,
Got
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Got it. All right. Thank you.
And then there's a whole host of transition provisions that took me a long time to figure out. But I'm not sure it's the best use of our time to walk through that right now.
This would be sort of the, how you transition from gubernatorial appointed people to, and when terms end and all of that.
Exactly.
Any further questions? All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll close there. I just want to say that next on our agenda is a break till 10:30. And we'll have some committee discussion. It's always, I would say, a pleasure in our committee room when we have students come in and don't want to miss the opportunity. We could probably take 10 minutes. If anybody in the room that just joined us would like to comment on I assume it looks like you're all here about phone-free schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anybody who would like to just kind of tell us what you have to say for, we have 10 minutes?
Thanks, Kate.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Happy to.
Why don't you come up and join us right here at the table? and we
Oh, great choice.
Good
That's
job.
my seat.
can tell us your name. And
I'm Elijah Renner.
And
I go
from?
to Thetford Academy.
Welcome.
So this bill is really important to me because when I left in the fall to go to a semester school, I went to Alzar School. It's a school in Idaho and Chile. And we were without phones the entire semester and we got to build really strong connections. And while I was away, my school at home implemented a phone-free policy. And the people at my school, when I came back, it was just a whole different school environment. Everyone seemed much more happy, much more joyous, much more connected. And I noticed that people were developing skills like public speaking that I hadn't seen out of some people before. Like in some of my classes, like, wow, that person's a really good speaker now, or this person's really good at talking to people. Some people who I thought, who maybe didn't have many friends are making real connections with people. So that's one thing I've noticed. Getting rid of phones is also really helpful because it makes people more critically engaged with the classroom. I think when the phone is in your pocket, it's really easy to just like kind of go behind someone and like have it open. You're not engaging with the curriculum at all. And that can cause people to fall behind. So this is, something we're noticing in Vermont is like test scores are dropping significantly or, not significantly, but over time, the drops are compounding. It's certainly on a downward trend. And something we can do right now to reverse that trend is by getting rid of phones. We allow people to engage more critically in the classroom and thereby, we can increase test scores and make sure that people aren't another year behind where they have phones in school and they're, they might get behind for another year. But if you reverse that by getting rid of phones and taking the burden off of educators to implement these policies and deal with parents, then you allow students to get back on that upward trend of learning. And this is something that can be done right now. So that's what I have to say.
So Thetford Academy has a phone-free school policy.
We do. I think we're one of 3 schools to do it, and it's been really successful.
And how does it work? I mean, literally when you walk in the door.
So we walk in, we put our phones in these pouches called yonder pouches, and then they're locked up for the day. And then at the end of the day, students can take them out of the pouches.
And is it pretty universally liked?
So yeah, some people who were skeptical of it in the beginning are now very happy with it. Some people in this room can also, let's have Dave give a little.
I think it's important to mention that the pouches are locked.
Which gives your name?
David Dexon. I also Thetford Academy student. I'm a junior. And I thought it was important to also mention these pouches. We use magnets to unlock them in the morning, and we put our phone inside of the pouch, and then it is locked the entire day. At the end of the day, they have magnets that are attached like right outside of the doors of the school. So the second you get outside of the school, you can unlock them, take them out immediately, and then those travel with you back home. So you're responsible for them at your house, but then you bring them back the next day.
And maybe you could just say some.
Open campus privileges. Oh, yes. Students also can have open campus privileges where we're allowed to leave school, and that starts your junior year. So if you have open campus privileges, you go to the office where you'll unlock your phone before you head home or something like that. And then when you come back, it's expected that you lock them back up. And they have people, at all the stations to make sure the students are locking their phones. And, they'll remind you if you're going home to unlock it, because kids don't accidentally bring it home with their phone locks.
And maybe just one thing, since the chair asked about people who didn't like the promo or are skeptical of it, maybe don't like it. Can you just talk about how you initially thought it was going to be a bad thing, but it turned out to be a good thing?
Yeah, sure. When I first heard about it, I was totally against it. And I know many parents were, people are thinking this can't work. There's no way this will be implemented and there'll be too much pushback. But within like the first week, no one was saying this, everyone was for the most part for it, and just with how easy it was, like that, it just all those thoughts kind of dissipated, and no one really thought that there was no more pushback after we saw it successfully.
All right, well, we got hands up.
Yeah.
Rob, go
I
ahead.
would like to know which one of you kids was the most addicted. Which one of you melted down the worst? And were you able to have a second life after your phone was in the bag?
Hey, Yuli, do you want to answer that one? Since we did a whole project on this?
Yeah, sure. So,
Give us your name if you wouldn't mind.
my name is Yuli Junker. I'm a senior at Thetford Academy. And similar to Elijah, I did a semester school called the High Mountain Institute in Colorado, where students were entirely phone free. And then upon that, I came back and I was reintegrated on my phone, and I became so addicted and so encapsulated in social media and scrolling that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm melting and I'm turning into a zombie, and I feel like things are going south. Like there was a point in time where I was like, is it like my school that's making me feel dumb, or is it just like it was my environment? Like why do I feel like a blob of like nothing? And so I decided that and so another thing that's offered at Tepper Academy is we can create our own courses. It's called a challenge course, where you can design your own curriculum for half credit or a full credit. And so I designed a course where I got rid of social media and my phone, and I went on a flip phone for I think it was 8 weeks, or it went like 7.5 or 8 weeks. And so I was documenting my journey of exiting the addiction of social media and my iPhone. And and so that it was also, so creating that course was also largely to rebut my mother, who said that it is my phone. My phone is the problem. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to put together this data, and it's going to show that it's not my phone, but it was my phone. And
Mom won.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah, so yeah, as moms are usually right.
Talk about your sleep and your grades.
Yeah, well, so
Let me just, we have some other questions I'd like to get to here.
Yeah.
First, go ahead.
So by the sounds of this is pretty much student administered. You all kind of take care of this on your own with maybe an adult by to make sure it's happening.
Yeah.
Now, are there like extra yonder pouches at school in case somebody forgets their yonder pouch and?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a yonder pouch. This is the thing. Those are, that's sort of like an
Sure.
expensive solution.
Yeah.
Works in a school with 300 kids, but this can be done with anything. I don't know.
Right.
I'll have someone pass this down to you. That's like just showing different examples from around the country. People have done this a bunch of different ways. It can be done really cheap.
And this actually happens a lot. I forget things pretty often. And I'm Oliver Ransom. I'm a senior at Thetford. In the event that you forget your phone, they just have like they have a cart that the magnets are on, and you just put it in the cart, and they bring it back in the office at the end of the day. You go pick it up. So they have solutions for forgetful students.
Awesome. So I have a question. It sounds like Thetford's really doing a great job with this. Why do we need to pass a law then? Why, if schools can handle this and are doing a good job, why do we need to? If you guys have an answer, I'd love to hear the students.
Okay, we've seen that it's really benefited our school, and one thing I touched on in this video that we made, I was talking about it, was that I feel like a lot of the students feel like that, they don't want to go off their phone because everyone else has them. And so, seeing like if every school couldn't use their phones, these kids wouldn't really care about it because that's just what everyone else is doing. You're not feeling like you're missing out on anything, or that, you may be like, the odd one out, the only school that's doing this. You feel like this is just kind of the normal, this is what everyone's doing.
Yes, it also has to do with the burden you put on educators and administrators to implement the policy. They get pushback from parents, and if it's a state policy, then they don't get that pushback.
So is your policy just cell phones, or as what's in this bill, all electronic devices, including smartphones?
I think it's all electronic.
So you put all of your electronics?
Yeah, like I put my AirPods in.
Yeah, and the reason for that, that we talking with the teachers, a lot of kids were confused about that at first. They're saying, just completely, remove any connection to the smartphone. So we're not even kids don't even think about it. And that's another part that has made it go through so successfully in our school that we've seen, is just, you're not even thinking of your phone during school. It's not even a second thought. It's not there at all.
Also, if you're walking around with AirPods and you're not talking to people.
Right.
So.
And similar to what David was saying, just not thinking about it at all. Like last semester, my two first classes were, I had a wood shop class and a gym class, and I was like, oh, it's not going to be a big deal because I'm not going to use my phone. I wouldn't be able to use my phone at all. And now this semester, I have an English class and a French class, and I don't want to use my phone at all because I'm engaged with my class, and I'm just doing what I should be doing.
So some of the pushback comes from parents who say, I need sort of access to my student. And especially in the case of some sort of emergency, I want to be able to reach my student or my kid. How have your parents adjusted to this? Have they been okay with the inability to reach you during the day?
Yeah, the office always has, phones that they listen to for the parents, and they'll be able to take your notes and send it down to the teachers in individual classes, especially with calling kids out of school. And then we also have the information about emergencies, and it's saying that, these teachers have been trained to deal with these emergencies and be able to contact emergency services and put out the information that, the school needs. So it's not like these schools have been trained in this, and they're able to, do it themselves. And with, kids contacting their parents, that might make things more dangerous by, like there'll be more calls going out, so that could hinder like the responses. And then also, if parents are rushing to the school, it's gonna make it harder for fire trucks and other emergency services to make it into the school, as well as, like if there's parents walking around campus trying to find their kid, they could be identified incorrectly as someone who is there to harm the school instead of help.
Leanne, I'm sorry.
Sorry, were you
Yeah,
calling?
no, you,
Okay.
Leanne.
Leanne Harple, I am an English teacher. One of the things that my students often ask to use their phones for, which we don't have a phone-free policy and I let them, is to take notes, like what I put on the board or something in their books. And so obviously that's not something you guys can do. Did you do that before this? And did you adjust, do you take notes by hand now? Like, was that an
Taking
easy?
notes by hand is better for
I know.
retrieval. So I think the solution is go back to paper.
So that
People have been
wasn't a
fine with
problem.
that, yeah.
Okay.
People, yeah, it's better.
And another time, I remember hearing this directly from David, is that in the event that there's like a bunch of like math work up before that he was talking about, is like if you were in the situation where you take a picture, of it, the teacher can just take a picture of it and email that to the students or put it on Google Classroom or what have you.
Eliza?
Oh, I was gonna say, well, other people, got to, but yeah, writing down stuff really helps you remember it. And some of my friends brought like digital cameras to take pictures of notes on the board, or teachers will take a picture with their phone and then post it on Google Classroom, or they just email it to the students. And about like contacting parents in school, I don't know about other people, but if I left my phone at home, like at school and I can't contact a parent, I'll just email through like my computer, and it works fine.
Thank you. We were supposed to have a break. I want to make sure my committee has a chance to stretch and before our next session. But thank you all for coming in. Plus, I suspect we are violating our room capacity. But I would ask that those of you who have spoken to us, would you please just stop over here at this desk so she can write your name down. We just like to keep a record of who is speaking, because it is all on the record.
You did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Representative Conlon, just so you know, today we do have a community letter of support that we finished with over 1,000 signatures.
Yeah, I need you to introduce yourself. for the
Laura
record.
Dinger, from Middletown Springs. We want to share with you, this is a letter that's addressed to the legislature and to the governor. So it's over 1,000 community support signatures of teachers, students, health workers, parents, grandparents. So the letters here and then all of the 1,000 plus signatures. So I wanted to just present this to you, and we're sharing this with people throughout the.
And also Benjamin Clark, I don't want you to think that this is just totally student-led. I represent, I'm a school board member at Harwood, and I'm also a teacher in South Burlington, Vermont. And I want you to know that this is something that is a groundswell support from teachers. This is something that's needed from school districts. And we are asking you for something that is uniform from the state so that we can apply it to school districts. We're asking you to be the hero of the moment. And we are asking you to rise to this moment. We know that you have other things on your plate that are really heavy that maybe you can't solve right now. But this is something that you can solve right now, that can be implemented right now. And so this is something that is a step towards maybe being the hero of the moment. We are asking that you do this for the mental health of our children. Something that can be solved right now, and something that frankly is near and dear to our hearts, which is our children's well-being and the educational support of them. So thank you very much for
We
that.
also
Thank you
have,
very,
we also have physician
I
presentation.
need to call on you.
Sorry.
Yeah. Would you please give us your name?
Yes, I'm Dr. Rebecca Yukika. I'm a pediatrician in Vermont. We have multiple,
Rima Carlson, I'm family medicine physician in Montpelier.
and
Robin Osborne, clinical psychologist.
Well, if we take it up, we will certainly look forward to having more formal testimony and organized testimony. We
Please
really just
consider it.
saw an opportunity to hear from some students